So the first theme is about creating and sharing clarity.
Awesome. Can you hit the next slide, please? Many transitioners don't know how to talk about transition. It's so wide-ranging, deep, and multifaceted. It's hard to craft a statement that's comprehensive enough and yet readily understandable. Next slide.
Sharing transition systems perspective. We need to keep our eye on the mission of resilient communities and post-carbon local economies. If this can be better served by coalitions with like-minded organizations, I'm all for it. We should investigate an umbrella coalition movement with transition as a visible founding partner.
The national dialogue would include the necessity of planned economic contraction along with a broader rejection of consumerism, including green consumerism. The next section, oh, go ahead, Leslie.
Sharing transition values and solutions.
We're already undergoing an involuntary transition. What's needed is a coordinated effort to navigate the unraveling of environmental and social systems in a way that cares for the most people and species and puts humanity on a path to true sustainability.
For many people, this is the first time they've thought seriously about building resilience. Since Transition US has been doing this work for years, we have an opportunity to be a leading voice in articulating what's next.
We need to keep speaking to the underlying problems, the mindset that created the crisis, and gently but firmly point to the possibility of a new mindset that would serve us in creating a better future, changing the conversation from cynicism to hope, from division to commonality, from greed and competition to sharing and cooperation. Communicating what we're about is key.
The next is enhancing messaging to maintain relevance. Transition's positive vision was not sufficiently truthful about the realities of our situation and made it sound like transitioning would be easy. Thus, the low morale and sense of disappointment that we've not achieved our goal of transforming our communities and political, economic, and cultural systems with very little resources and limited training and skill building.
If Transition US was really a game changer, it would give us more resources to face the harsh realities of our current situation. Climate tipping points have already been reached, societal collapse imminent, and living on a dying planet.
Public speaking, public writing, getting on conference panels, guerrilla art, music, videos. This is a culture war, and we have been far too timid. The culture war is not left against right. The culture war is life versus death. Finding strong voices among Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and pushing women, including older women, and people of color to the forefront.
So there are several more quotes and feedback from the survey in the document we linked. And Marissa did a really excellent job of synthesizing some of the key themes and takeaways, but we wanted to quote directly from her this quote to kind of take it back home to all of you. Moving forward, an important nuance of our positive messaging can be emphasizing the spirit of transition leadership, the incredible depth of character that has emerged from so many of the wonderful humans transition attracts. And that's all of you. These folks are dedicated, responsible, generous, supportive, curious, thoughtful, humble, and persistent. They represent the best of humanity, and they exemplify an inherent value of transition, being the person and neighbor you would want to be during a time of crisis and disruption. So we encourage you to read the strategy and planning input paper if you haven't before. But next, we're going to move into the subject of communication and why we are communicating.
So the comments we shared spoke to the what people are concerned about, the challenges and opportunities they see. And in our breakout groups this evening, we're going to shift that conversation in a more strategic direction and take a look at some of the why questions. Why are we communicating? And I'm asking these questions because we assume that the answers are self-evident, but that's not always the case. And if we look at why organizations communicate, we might find some insights, opportunities, and a sharper focus. I'm going to draw from a book called Primal Branding, Creating Zealots for Your Brand, Your Company, and Your Future. And according to the author, Patrick Hanlon, organizations communicate for three primary purposes. The first is to define themselves to themselves as well as to the world. This is who we are. That's the message that they send out clearly to followers, to employees, to customers. Who we are can be defined by a set of actions, or for a social movement, it's going to include a core set of principles and beliefs. For transition towns, it could be the belief that everyday people can take action in their own lives and in their own communities to mitigate and adapt to a changing climate. If you, I'm wondering if anyone would like to share, like in a single sentence, what they think core transition belief or statement would be. And you know what, Marissa gave us one that you just read, Rati, being the person and neighbor you want to be during a time of crisis and disruption. Does anyone else have a single sentence that they use that they feel sums up a core what the core of transition or transition belief? And I hope I can see everybody. Oh, sorry. Yay.
I know it's hard to see everybody when you just have like 5 or so on the screen at one time.
Yeah.
I actually liked something that was in one of the, maybe it was from Marissa actually, I can't remember now, in the document. And it was something about transitioning from a degenerative world, for example, where we have species extinctions and resource depletion and pollution, and racial tensions and inequities, economic inequities, all of that, to a regenerative world. You know, one that's based on sharing and trust and collaborating. So something along those lines I thought was really a neat way of putting it. Peace back.
So the idea of local sustainability, where we can hopefully feed ourselves with our gardens, where we can provide maker spaces for people to manufacture things that we need who are local rather than transporting them in all the time, ways of handling our own waste and compost so that we're not shipping it out all the time and, you know, causing problems with fuel, things like that.
Recently, I've been saying that transition is a movement to build resilient community resilience by strengthening the local economy and culture. And we do this by connecting with each other, connecting with people and groups to become more interdependent rather than dependent on the industrial growth society.
I often, was somebody else speaking?
I saw a hand from Dawn, but let's have Rua go and then Dawn.
Hi, Rati.
Hello.
So nice to see you. I often talk about the from and to. So from a culture of fossil fuel use and consumerism to a culture that is renewable and producer and sharing and caring.
I like the one that Transition Network came up with a few years ago, working with some marketing consultants over there in the UK. They came up with a movement of communities coming together to reimagine and rebuild our world.
So in this defining ourselves and to the world, what we're really saying is we stand for something. The second reason that organizations communicate is to attract people to them by creating a sense of community and belonging. So it's the welcoming people in. Even if you're Coca-Cola, you're trying to create a community of fans for Coca-Cola. We're not attracting people by converting them. We're attracting them by connecting with them and by connecting with their values and needs. So when someone comes to transition activities, we can think that they're saying, this is the kind of person I am, so I want to be involved in this. They're saying, these are my concerns and my fears. Are there other people here who feel this way? They're asking, is this the place where I can be me, where I can make a contribution? And do I belong here? And they're saying, I think I could get more done if I worked with like-minded people. Will I meet like-minded people here? So when we're communicating to attract people, we are thinking of themes of self-identity, of efficacy, of welcome and inclusion. And I'm wondering if people would like to share a quick story about a way that your group has communicated to create that sense of belonging or of welcome.
Leslie, could you hit the next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
As well?
Yeah, thank you. And I can't see if everyone who has their hand up.
Go ahead, Rua.
I think anything that we do in our little tiny community at Transition Charlotte, that we do it with joy. And when we exhibit the joy of what we're doing, people feel that and feel welcomed. We don't have to say welcome, but we can be so delighted that they're there. So for an example, for the repair cafes, we're always so excited when people come, and there's just a lot of joy in what we do. It's never a drag.
I'm going to jump in, if that's okay, but I'm kind of with a non-answer. I want us to use the word, I like this, the definition Don read, a movement of communities coming together to reimagine and rebuild our world. Because it's communities, and I don't think it should only be people communities. I think we need to recognize that we've got to include all the ecological communities. So I'm in northern Minnesota a lot right now, and there's no official transition town, but working with the plants and the animals who are here, as well as the people, is making a stronger community. I don't know if I'm going to say this right, or it sounds like too non-transition, but I think that we have to switch our language a little bit so that we're not just so people focused, and broaden the communities. And I'm hoping that my transition town, All St. Anthony Park, is a very successful transition town, but it's kind of also stayed. It's like the people who are there are the people who keep coming and others are welcome. But I'm finding it much more vibrant to be working with the multiplicity of my communities who are global, and they're much more diverse when I'm working with my former students in a Zoom community than in my neighborhood. And the transition town principles are applying to all of those. I'm struggling with how to bring that into the transition discussion and mindset.
Go ahead, Don.
I think Shari had her hand up before me.
Thank you. One thing that we've done at Transition Town Media is we've had this gratitude event, which is basically a potluck that's kind of a super potluck, I guess you could say. We have, you know, candlelit dinner thing and tablecloths and just the whole 9 yards. It's really very beautiful. And what we do for that is to invite representatives from all of the local nonprofit groups. You know, anyone who's really doing something positive in the community, you know, whether it's, you know, running a nature center or, you know, helping disabled people or whatever it is. And we give them each like 2 or 3 minutes to talk about themselves and to let people know what they're doing. And that's it, you know, and then people just kind of mingle and connect with each other and talk and whatever. And it's been sort of surprisingly popular. And it kind of reinforces the fact that we are all working together in one way or another to make a better community. And everyone is really bringing that to the table. So anyway, it's a pretty easy way to get people, you know, connected and involved. And we've done it, you know, several years in a row. He's back.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in, say when I was working with Transition Sarasota, I would try to, you know, connect with whoever the audience was. So we had a booth weekly at the downtown farmers market, and when people ask, what is this transition thing? I'd say it's all about supporting local farmers and growing locally and having a local food economy. And people would be like, oh, yeah, I'm into that. That's why I'm here. And then I could tell them some more about, you know, oh, there's this big global movement and it's multifaceted. But here in Sarasota, we're focused on food. If I was speaking to like a group of Rotarians, I might talk about how we were helping to provide emergency food assistance to the food insecure in our community, because I know that's a big issue for them. And talk about our Suncoast Gleaning Project first. So like, I felt like, you know, you don't always have to front load everything onto people. You could just start with a little point of connection and then grow it from there.
Anyone else?
Linda raised a hand.
Mute. Okay. You see me? Hi. Yep. Hi, everybody. Linda here from Transition Berkeley. What we've been doing in the last couple years, well, we've been around for nine years, and we have been purposefully getting out to join a lot of activities and join other groups. who are like-minded, and we're doing a lot more collaboration with these groups and finding a lot of power in that. So for example, we've been working with a few of our city council people. There's a measure coming up on our November ballot that is going to be a climate equity fund, which will be a small tax on the utility bill. And so now the council people know us, and they know that they can rely on us for collaboration and support in some of these bigger issue things. And through that, we've met others. Like we've met Ambrose Carroll, who's head of the Green the Church. It's a national organization for folks in churches, and they deal with climate stuff. And so we're doing another collaboration with them. We've done some community healing circle with them and plan to do more. They're going to help us with this campaign for the Climate Equity Fund, which the money will be used to help especially low-income community members transition into, renewable energy and electrifying their homes and making them more energy efficient, better biking, walking paths, especially in low-income parts of town, things like that. So yeah, instead of just like, we had done a lot of events for 4 or 5 years, we did a monthly event at a church, and we're inviting people to come to us. We're not doing that as much. We're getting out, doing planting. We've got a pollinating project and doing repair cafe trainings, and we're not being passive. We're out there pollinating and building relationships with our community members.
Oops.
Love that. I see Marissa has a hand.
One thing that I think has worked well, especially talking to young people, and this is just me sharing, my work about Transition US, more so than me bringing young people into a local transition initiative, but just sharing my story about how I've been able to find a sense of purpose, and realizing, a lot of people don't have a strong sense of purpose, and that is an extremely valuable thing today, especially young people who are just dealing with so much and feeling overwhelmed and looking for a sense of purpose.
I'm going to break in because our third reason for communicating is to inspire people to take action. And whether that's attending an event or starting a project or talking to a legislator or stepping up to take a leadership role in transition. It can be one of the easiest messages, but sometimes we forget to actually ask. So inspiring action.